Hello, I'm Jody Presser, Technical Director for Honeypot Performance. Honeypot Performance is a creative Afro-diasporic feminist collaborative committed to documenting and interrogating fringe subjectivities amidst the pressures of contemporary global life. We enlist modes of creative expressivity to examine the nuance of human relationships, including the ways we negotiate identity, belonging, and the differences in our lives and cultural memberships. Dismantling the vestiges of oppressive social relationships is part of the work, through the intersection of critical performance and public humanities as a means of building deeper human connections. By creating multi-year engagements, multi-platform projects, and tangible ways of sharing the work post-performance, such as our performance Masking Her to a book, and our Jew Cry Handclap performance to a digital map, Chicago Black Social Culture Map. We look forward to building, creating, and engaging with you. Thank you, and I would like to welcome Jennifer Lagaya.
Chicago's legacy continues to be diminished by systemic inequities that have undermined its success for decades. These social and economic disparities touch nearly every aspect of Chicago life and government.
We Will Chicago is a new 3-year citywide planning initiative that will encourage neighborhood growth and vibrancy while addressing social and economic inequities that impair Chicago's legacy as a global city. As the first citywide plan of its type since the 1966 Comprehensive Plan, We Will's guiding principles of equity, diversity, and resiliency will serve as 3 initial fundamental goals. During the initial pre-planning phase, We Will Chicago will focus on 6 initial pillars for discussion. Housing and neighborhoods will ask where we live. Economic development, asking how we prosper. And transportation and infrastructure, asking how we move. Environment, climate, and energy, asking how we are resilient. Arts and culture, looking into who we are. And public health and wellness, asking how we thrive. These pillars will act as a framework for discussions and be examined through the shared goals of equity, diversity, and resiliency to begin to envision the creation of a people-first plan that represents and positively impacts all residents of Chicago. This will be carried out in 3 phases, with phase 1 being the initial engagement and pre-planning phase, which is an opportunity for community-based organizations to provide input to develop a specific framework for the next phase of the planning initiative. The second phase is the engagement and planning stage, which is where robust community engagement efforts and policy plans are developed on a range of topics, followed by action plans and eventually a citywide planning document that is reflective of the collective vision for the future. And phase 3 is the adoption and implementation of this plan, which is the formalization of the city's commitment to their goals.
Our job is to ensure that the We Will Chicago initiative begins and ends with a people-first plan that represents and positively impacts all the people of Chicago. Honeypot Performance will contract a core group of artists and a core group of community organizers working together to help guide the work of a public engagement process for the We Will Chicago initiative. This core group will co-create an engagement model alongside Honeypot Performance to address the We Will Chicago initiative's fundamental goals. Teams consisting of community artists and community organizers will be aligned with the 6 core pillar issues of the We Will Chicago initiative and will engage communities in events and activities throughout the city. Engagement will occur in 2 ways: community hubs in assigned communities and a mobile team to cover areas that are not in the community anchor hubs. Each team will have its own programming to activate the ideas and concepts that are most important to its community's interests. By the end of the summer, each artist organizer team, along with the community, will generate an action plan and some form of creative work, series, and/or other public-facing actions based on the core ideas, solutions, and recommendations that emerge from their time together. The implementation of this work will begin winter 2020 through summer 2021, and it's considered a part of the overall Phase 1 initial engagement and pre-planning process of the We Will Chicago initiative. For more information about We Will Chicago phases, visit the We Will Chicago website at wewillchicago.org. All involved in the We Will Chicago initiative will be expected to share ideas and concepts and work together to engage the community and work through challenges. Anchor Hub and mobile teams will work together to align programming plans and objectives. And teams will also have support staff in marketing, technology, and operations to assist in engaging the community, promoting the work, and the administrative tasks that keep the work moving along.
Hi, I'm Maida McNeil with Honeypot Performance, and I'm going to share a bit with you about the scope of work over the timeline, our core values for the engagement framework. So let's get going. So our timeline and scope of work, what that looks like for each of our artist and organizer teams, is we begin onboarding and a kind of collective model building February and March. We will have a period of virtual engagement that during the winter and going into early spring, March and April. We will bring our mobile team on board as opposed to the artists and organizer teams who are at each of the 6 pillar community hubs. We will have a mobile team in summer that is going citywide doing workshops with a version of the process. So we will bring them on in spring to kind of learn from what our team so far has gotten out of working with communities and these pillar issues, and where how we need to kind of create their workshop material based off of that. And then the whole team will go into its most intensive period of engagement in the summer and late spring from May through August. All while we're doing this, there will be data analysis going on. And so we will also be bringing on some folks who will be helping to kind of collect and sort the stories and workshop data, other kinds of things, whatever gets created as the programming to collect information about how people are responding to these pillar issues. And then we will make a final report that goes to the city in September, October. And then there will be the last leg of the journey with us will be around some sort of creative output that's based off of the work that's been done. And there is potential funding so that some of these projects might be able to be more ambitious, because we expect that some of the things that they get imagined with communities and discussed will be more ambitious. So we're hoping that there'll be opportunities to actualize some of that. Really quickly, I just want to share, 2 images with you to kind of help visualize this process. We are thinking about going deep and staying over the year, spending deep time with 6 different communities around each of these pillar issues. And so this is kind of how we're thinking about it, that there will be a lead artist and organizer specialist who is assigned to a neighborhood that kind of demonstrates both the challenges and accomplishments around that particular pillar issues, because we expect that we know that there are community models and folks already on the ground who are addressing some of these things. So we want to have this kind of pillar depth model to be able to make space for all of that. And then the other part of that is kind of a gear model in which at some point in the live engagement process, each of those artist teams and organizer teams will get a chance to connect with community at each of the other hubs, so that there is a sense of understanding the whole process and how each of these teams are addressing these issues and what's coming up in some of the other neighborhoods. In the pre-planning process, one of the things that we've heard, the feedback is that people want to be aware of what other neighborhoods and communities are thinking about. And so we're thinking this gear model will be one way to address that. And then the hub programming activity, this kind of preliminary visioning is really about like, what are all the kinds of ways we can think that programming might happen around these pillar issues within kind of artist organizer lens. And so we're thinking about workshops, conversations, design exercises, knowledge and skill shares that will then create ideas, action plans, creative outputs aligned with each of those issues, and each of the teams will help to kind of create what those actual specific activities will be. 3 core ideas that are part of our framework: rooted in place, ideation and creation, and plans of action and experimentation. Rooted in place is really about, as I mentioned before, kind of building deeper relationships, more intimate relationships and trust with specific communities around these issues that are relevant to them. And so that is kind of that pillar and ways of kind of connecting artists to community stakeholders. Ideation and creation, we think this is a really important part of the framework, that we are thinking as much as possible about, how do we generate new ideas, new solutions, or if we, there are specific solutions that are already out there, like how do we dig deeper into those models and see, ways that they might be replicated, amplified, bring more resources to them. So the imagination part of this engagement work is really critical. And the kind of planning and thinking about ways to build, ways to make things happen. And that leads us to this last part of the framework around plans of action and experimentation. So we want to make sure that we're trying things, doing things. Some things might not work. Some things, might lead to new unexpected surprises, and ways of thinking about community and gathering resources. And so we want to be open to all of that. And so these are those 3 pillars or framework values that are important to us. And then lastly, I'm just going to mention that we are, Honeypot Performance has been kind of inspired by a historical movement that was from the 60s to early 90s in the Garfield Park neighborhood of Fifth City. And it was really envisioned as a long-term process of transformation. They called it a 40-year plan, was really defined by intimate scale, at first 16 blocks, and then it grew to 40 blocks, but really was built out of this relationship at the neighborhood level, that neighbors know each other, that they can get together and discuss challenges and problems and build solutions together and then act on them. And so we want to take inspiration from all of that as we move forward. Here quickly are the 5 Fifth City core values that frame that process. And I'm going to end with kind of just how we have kind of adapted some of these ideas. So Honeypot's adaptation of these kind of core values. We're really thinking about uplifting existing assets and solution makers. We start with the people who are doing the work already in their communities. We're thinking again about growing relationships over time, about building trust within the communities that have often been ignored or misinterpreted. We're investing in the kind of skill building and knowledge sharing of these communities. And building plans, leveraging resources to make change happen. And then understanding that everything is intersectional, right? That these issues and problems and lives that we're engaging are multi-layered, multivalent, and that we can't address one thing without the other. So that will be part of our kind of complicated, layered conversations as we understand that. And then finally, that we understand that we need to be flexible, right? That we have to be responsive to who comes into the room, whether that be the artists and organizers or that once we get on the ground with community, that, you know, people come to this work or into these conversations with their own ideas, their own wisdom, their own perspectives, and we want to make space for all of that and try to be responsive and build flexible but consensus building kind of activities and frameworks so that we can do the work together. So thank you. And we will end with Aisha talking about what Honey Pot thinks the potential impact of this work could be. And so we look forward to working with you artists and organizers on this kind of grand process. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aisha Jean-Baptiste, and I would like to close with Honey Pot Performance's vision for the potential impact of this work. We approach this initiative within a framework of equity, diversity, and resiliency. HPP is committed to operating under those principles with care, intention, and purpose, utilizing transparency, relationship building, deep listening, response, and active engagement. Our vision for not only the hub neighborhoods, but the greater city of Chicago is to support the creation of the first people-focused plan in the city's history, one that prioritizes investment in families and neighborhoods, which will inform priorities for government programs and projects and guide future budget decisions. As a lasting impact, we hope to validate, affirm, and amplify the hopes, needs, lived experiences, and voices of community members, while modeling the practice of deep listening and hearing. We want to uplift the voices of existing advocates, assets, and solution makers in and on behalf of communities while also modeling the practice of deep listening and hearing. We want to build new and sustainable models of inter-community networking and information, skill, resource, and capital exchange. We want to plant firm models for utilizing arts and culture as advocacy, awareness, resistance, and resilience. We hope to set into motion measured plans for a people-focused and people-led reversal of disparities in education, health, including mental health, housing, job creation, safety, accessibility, mobility, and overall quality of life. So please join us in this most important work. You are valued, you are important, you are needed.